Hello and welcome to another episode of Dogman Sasquatch Oklahoma Encounters. My name is Lance Hightower. I'll be your initial host here, but today what we're going to do is follow with a part 2 of episode 9 with discussion between myself and Wiley Fritz on the scenarios, predators, and firearms, which I think you'll find very interesting. Before we get going here, and we have a winner of our first sub giveaway, we're going to just give a shout out to some of our subbers here. We have Pokey, Reagan5, Vampire Soul Productions, Doran Zellers, Jay Allen, Nazarene Deb, Tracy Sabine, Alice Logan, Bella Girl 45, Dick Richards, S.J. Reedhead, Nell Voklovic, Rockies Road, June Tay 92, Shane Seams, and least but not last here, we have Maple Knives and Bushcraft from Germany. Welcome. Groves, Texas Outlaw, GTO, and James Thompson. Thank you guys so much. We appreciate you. Without you, we wouldn't have a show. So we just wanted to give a shout out there. Also, our first random subber giveaway here, and is, drum roll, it is Perry Hernsum. That's Perry Hernsum, Hersom. Hernsum. So, Perry, what we want you to do is call our toll-free number and give us your address, and we will send you this one-of-a-kind gift here. When you get it, take a picture with it, and we will put it on one of our episodes. And the number that you dial, Perry, is 1-866-306-8085. That's 1-866-306-8085. It's the same submission report number. So, congratulations, Perry, and we're very happy. We're starting some of these our monthly subber giveaways. So we want to jump right in to this episode. I think you'll find it very interesting. We had some comments on the last episode that people wanted more specifics. A gentleman named Mo, who's a truck driver out there. Thank you, Mo. I appreciate the specific comments that you had. He had comments regarding certain firearms and ammo, and of course with the expertise of Wally Dave and some of the outdoor experience that I have and some other scenarios and some things that were really kind of sad in the news. It just timing was interesting for this episode, so I chatted with Dave here, so I thought, let's do another follow-up part 2. There's people asking questions. So I think you'll find the conversation interesting, enlightening, and educational. So let's just pick it up from our conversation of episode 9, part 2 with Wiley Dave and myself. So what I want to do today, Dave, is go ahead and have a continuation from our last episode. We had some subbers call in, and they really want us to talk a little bit more about this feral dog issue, and also they want us to talk a little bit more about specifics of what to carry, firearms, and specific loads for the feral dog. I guess this hit a nerve, and here recently, we just spoke about this earlier, sadly enough, there was a lady, ironically right after this show, I know you saw it too, that we had a mountain lion, huge mountain lion, killed out in Cimarron County that I don't know how much it weighed, but there were some pictures online, and it had been killing this farmer's sheep. And we had just spoke about predators of Oklahoma, and then here just day before yesterday, I believe, in Oklahoma City, there was a lady walking her dog in northwest part of Oklahoma City who was in a really nice neighborhood right off Council, was killed by a dog, was mauled to death, as well as her small dog. Two dogs. So we just wanted to follow up with our listeners out there and talk about this feral dog issue, about dog attacks, because we don't really hear a lot about it. And we don't know that, for every report, I don't know, I would say for every report that's given, there's probably 2 or 3 that are not reported or recorded. What's your opinion about this feral dog or dog attack issue?
Well, I mean, it's kind of weird that we were talking about that, and then you might say the Lord works in mysterious ways. All of a sudden, He just presents these two issues that come up to us a week after we did that show. Right. And I mean, it just hits it home. It tells exactly what we talked about, and that that mountain lion by looking at the feet. The guy was holding his hand up next to it. The paws were big of his hand, so that you know it's a big tom. And that cat probably weighed anywhere from, from 175 to 200 pounds, I would say.
I would say at least, because in that and I'll try to put a photo on with this episode of that. That gentleman is no small guy, and his hand is against that paw, and it is massive.
And then you got these dogs that attacked this lady. I mean, she didn't have a chance. I mean, evidently she had no weapon at all to fight him off with. And I just happened to be watching dog attacks on YouTube. And if anybody wants to see what it's like, just go to YouTube and pull up feral dog attacks. And there was a pit bull that attacked this guy and grabbed hold of his arm, and there was 8 people trying to pull that dog off of this guy, and they could not get that dog to turn loose. They hit him with sticks, anything they could find around there, and that dog held on. He was locked on like a snapping turtle. He wasn't going to let go,
That's amazing.
And they was slinging that dog around, and I mean, if you'd had a knife or a gun, it would have been over in a second, because that's the only thing that's going to save your life. It ain't going to be a stick or a trash can lid or whatever's laying around there. You ain't got time to get that. You got to have something to do damage, and I mean lethal damage right now.
Right. Well, and again, I wanted to follow up, and I appreciate, I just want to thank, there's a gentleman out there named Mo, and he's a truck driver, and he wanted to know more specifics about this feral dog issue, because I believe he has seen some being a truck driver, and he just wanted to know a little bit more what's going on and the specifics. But a lot of people, some of the state parks, I lived in State Park all my life with my dad being in the State Parks Division in Oklahoma, and I remember on many occasions my dad had killed feral dogs, the ranger had killed feral dogs, and I can't honestly say that there's a report or not. I was way too young, but we just don't know how many there are out there, and we're talking about this because we want people to enjoy the outdoors. We want them to go camping safely. We want them to enjoy fishing safely and hunting safely. But, when we get intrigued into this Sasquatch dogman phenomena, we've got that on our brain. And again, we want to be mindful and aware. The key word here is aware, that there are other animals, and unfortunately there are domesticated animals that have become wild and predatory from being dumped in the woods illegally. But it happens frequently, and sadly enough, very often, just outside of the suburbs.
Yeah, it's just people not taking care of their animals. I mean, it's not fair to the animal. I mean, I know several people that have pit bulls. A good friend of mine has one, and I mean, when I come in the door, she's got to be in my lap. I mean, she wants to be my best buddy, and the dog is just like any other dog at your house. I mean, she's really good, but Jerry's taking the time to treat her good. He feeds her good. He always pets her and stuff, and I mean, it's just, she gets all kinds of attention, and so she's a very good pet dog. But if they're, on the other hand, in the hands of somebody else that didn't give her the right attention and taught her to do bad things, and she would turn into one of these other dogs that we're talking about.
Well, and I know you mentioned on the last episode about that feral, was that a pit bull that you were out when you and I can't remember who you were hunting with.
With Jeff Logman on the Indian Reservation.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you said this, and it really made a lot of sense to me. We just talked about this earlier at lunch here, and we talked about that when you have a domesticated dog that's gone feral, once they've had a taste of blood from small animal, small game, that really changes their mindset. They're on high alert, and it'll be really hard to change them back at all.
Yeah, well, what it is, it's the wolf instinct that comes out in them. We all have, like, let's say everybody has dogs, little dogs. Okay, we'll take my toy Schnauzer, for instance.
Okay.
She's a little bitty, just a little house dog, and she's a rescue dog. And I felt sorry for her, so I took her when we actually went to get this other dog. But I watched those dogs, and I've taught her not to get after rabbits and stuff, but you can't break her of it. I mean, when she sees a rabbit, she goes hog wild, and that's the hunter instinct in these dogs. No matter how hard I call her back or whatever I have to do, I have to put the rope on her and drag her back home. She's like a bullet. She's out the door and gone if she sees a rabbit. So, and of course, she'll cower down and want forgiveness when I bring her back home. She thinks I'm going to spank her, but it's still the wolf instinct, coming out, because I mean, no matter how you breed them down through time and how domesticated they all have that one spot in them that this is what dogs and wolves did through time. They're killers. They had to kill for their food. And when they go feral, that instinct is triggered again, and then once it's on, you can't turn it off.
So, for our listeners out there, let's break down the term feral. What is that term? I know it's in the regulations, in the Oklahoma wildlife regulations when we're hunting. Like for the whitetail season, we'll get the regs for the new year, and it talks about hog hunting and fowl and everything else. So what does the word or the term feral mean, so folks can understand?
Basically, as an animal, I mean, it could be a hog or a dog or anything else that doesn't have an exact home that it goes to. It's not fed somewhere daily, and that it's living on its own. It's living in the wild. It's just like a coyote or a mountain lion. It's an animal of opportunity, and it just roams the countryside looking for something to eat all the time. So when those dogs are running around, they're running here and there, and you see them all over, they're burning calories. And for them in the wintertime, especially to stay warm, the only way they can stay warm is to eat. Mm-hmm. So they're constantly trying to find something to eat. So they're going to kill cats. They're going to kill small dogs in the neighborhood, rabbits, anything they can find. And once, like I said, once this switch is turned on inside them, you're not going to turn it off. That's it.
Right.
And
right.
at that point, you're not going to bring them back.
Right, and really this is across all breeds of dogs, really, because I know on one occasion my family and I, we were on a vacation and we were by the saguaro cactus and it was huge, and so we were taking a picture and my family was walking back to the van and I was just kind of lagging behind, and they were at the van already, and as I looked up, messing with my camera, there was an abandoned gas station and a pack of dogs came out from behind that gas station, and there was at least 5 or 6 different breeds of dogs, but you could tell which one was the alpha male, and they came out and they all stopped and stared me down, and I told my family to get back to the car. Of course, at that moment I had a firearm, but it was in the van and it wasn't with me, and so we got out of that one. I didn't make any sudden moves. I walked really slow, just like nonchalantly back to the van. And then they came up. They came up closer to the van, but we were gone by that time. So that was a moment that was pretty scary right then. But what's really interesting it can occur with all breeds of dogs. I pulled up some interesting facts here just earlier that the state that has the most dog attacks. Do you know what that is?
It's probably here in Texas.
It's Texas. Texas has the most dog attacks, and the overwhelming breed of dog that has has the most attacks occur is pit bulls. 21% is a mix of other breeds, or what they would say is mutts, and 14% is Rottweilers, and then you have 5% is Huskies, and then it just goes on down to other types of breeds, very less than 5%. But, it's very interesting to note here, this was a website called Dog Attack Fatalities and Statistics across the U.S., and that in 2008, as an example here, there was a 6-week-old Labrador puppy that killed a 2-month-old baby. That's staggering to me.
Well, there's the switch we're talking about.
Yeah.
The switch. Once the switch is on, you're not going to turn it off.
Yes. 90% of all dog attacks that do occur are male.
Because they do most of the killing for the pack.
I guess so.
Coyotes, wolves, any that's the canine species. That's the way it works.
Now this says right here, approximately 4.7 million dog attacks are reported annually. The key word here, reported. You and I just had this conversation. Right. How many of them are not ever recorded or reported that are in? And I'm not saying people that work in the wildlife department don't do their job, but let's be real, folks. When feral dogs exist or something in national or state parks, you may not ever get accurate statistics because that could calculate or translate into dollars for campers not coming, people in RVs not coming, people not fishing, hiking, tenting, horseback riding, all those things, if people knew what was out there. I'm not saying you need to be fearful of every time you step on grass or out in the woods, but the key word is being aware and being mindful of these things. We talk about this all the time, having a plan and being ready. And so, what's your stance on that?
Well, you know me. I don't go out in the woods without the smoker. So I usually got a rifle and a handgun.
And you don't mean a cigarette either.
No, and a big knife, But see what I watched those dog attacks on YouTube. Well, if those guys that were getting attacked by that dog, if they had a knife with a 6-inch blade on it, that dog's biting you. You can put that sucker in where it counts, and he's going to let go. I guarantee you can let the air out of him pretty quick, and the attack's going to be over. But if you don't have some kind of a sharp weapon or a gun, and he gets you on the ground, and he's going to try to go for your throat, and that's it.
Well, let's talk about that for just a second here. So if someone is walking their dog, or they're out in the woods and they're up against one dog, let's just say the scenario is one dog, where in most cases is that dog going to go for? Most cases people are not going to run from it. That's a given. So your best thing is to either, depending how far away you are, if you have enough time to climb a tree, if there's an ample size of tree around, that would be one thing. Dogs can leap, and they can leap up into kind of what we call the crotch or the yoke of the tree, and they might be able to get footing there somewhat. But last time I checked, they're not like a bear. They don't have claws that they can, or hook they can climb. So if a dog lunges, most of the time it's going to go for the forearm, or they might go for a leg, correct?
Right.
They're not like a predator, like a predator in the type that, like a mountain lion, going for the back of the neck. So if you have a knife, and when you say let the air out of it, you're saying a lung right in the side of the rib cage.
Right. If he's attacking you, you're going to try to cut him anywhere you can. But
right.
If he's biting my arm, I'm going to come in from the low side, right up under his stomach, and I'm going to stick it in and pull. I'm going to gut him clear to his throat, and everything he's got is going to fall on the ground.
But for the average person that are out there that doesn't have your experience, my experience, they just, do you have any particular brands that you would recommend? Because I have a couple of them, of knives, and there are knives and different types of sharp type of.
It don't have to be any of these fancy combat knives like I have and stuff. It can be, you can buy these knives at Academy, for as little as $10 a piece now. And the thing is that having it sharp and having it with you. You got to have it with you. That's the deal.
That's the thing.
And, I used to have a girlfriend that she used to like to jog all the time, and I wasn't going to be there to protect her, and she didn't like guns. So I fixed her up with a knife that went around her neck. And I told her, I said, if anybody ever grabs you, they're not going to be expecting that. Just reach up under there and pull that knife out. And I said, you run that around their forearm. And I said, he's going to let go because he's going to have more trouble than he can deal with right now.
Right.
The blood's going to spray. It's going to be messy, but you'll get away.
Right. And that's the thing. It does not have to be expensive. I know there are some companies that's been out a while that have gotten really niched into the crowd of people that's going to carry, and I know they have actually like what they call sports knives for people that are joggers and hikers.
Yeah.
Cold Steel is a company that has some interesting type of knife. They're not very expensive if you go onto Amazon, but there's some other types of companies that were making lightweight, very durable type of belt knives, running knives, shoe knives where it's like a tennis shoe. It's laced up with the sheath.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of different ways that you can take something very inexpensive, very light, very durable, very easy to operate and to handle in case a situation like that comes up. It doesn't mean that you may not get bloodied a little bit, but we're talking about saving your life. And everybody, and we just got through talking about this. This is our opinion. Every female that is a jogger, whether you're jogging in the city or especially in the suburbs where there's fields or woods or trails, you should have some way to protect yourself. And I'm not counting if you know martial arts. In addition to martial arts, I'm saying that a knife or some type of a sharp utensil you can use. If you get now we don't believe carrying illegal. in the state of Oklahoma, in order to carry a sidearm, a handheld sidearm, you have to have your CCW license. And so you got to have that if you're going to carry. You just can't indiscriminately carry a 1911 45 ACP. You got to carry. You got to have your concealed carry license. And in most states, that's the way it is.
You know, there's more people doing it illegal than there is
legal.
Well,
I know that, but I want to make sure that everybody, you do it right.
Yeah.
And because I can tell you right now, if you're out and you're investigating, or you're just out enjoying picnic with your family, or you're out in deer camp especially, and the wildlife department, and they're good about patrolling areas. And if you think you're alone out there, think twice. They'll come up on you in the most remote places. And if they see a sidearm, you better have your license with you.
In a state park.
In a state park.
But in the woods, it's every man for himself. So the thing of it is, I mean, I see people walking their dogs at night in these neighborhoods. Mm-hmm. And I'll just, I work all kinds of hours, and I've seen, some pretty big dogs walking around in some of these places. Just the other night, I went outside to get something out of the truck, and I seen these two big dogs was trolling the neighborhood around there. I'd never seen them before. And it must have been some kind of a concern, because the guy next door asked me if I knew who those dogs belonged to. He's got little kids.
Oh.
So, he was concerned about it. He has no idea that we even do this show. He knows nothing about it. And this is just one place here in Tulsa. There's how many places could be like this?
All over the place.
There's dogs roaming all over. I see them every day.
Well, again, that lady that was that I mentioned earlier that was attacked, it was a really nice neighborhood. I believe they said it was Willow Creek, right off Council, and that's a really nice neighborhood. And so I'm sure, it's so sad. She's out walking her dog like she probably does every day, and then all of a sudden she gets attacked. So we just want people, again, to be safe out there. You have to consider the possibility of what if. And if you never have to use a knife or a firearm, great. But at least just knowing, having the security, and you shouldn't just buy a firearm, get your license, and that's it. You really should know how to use the firearm. So do you have any suggestions, Dave, on the kind of firearm or sidearm that people, as far as I have a few suggestions, but I wanted your opinion on different types of firearms that are easily concealed, lightweight, and can get the job done should someone encounter something like a feral dog in a park or on the side of the road, at a campground, or in the woods, anything like that.
Well, there's so many handguns nowadays. It's like going to the candy store. There's just every brand and every style. But most people tend to want something compact, but they're not like me. I've carried a 1911 so much as part of my right arm, and so it don't bother me to carry a full house 45. But I've got some smaller ones too. I got a couple of 9mm and stuff. But if you got something like this company called Carr, they make a nice little gun, and then you've got, Ruger makes a bunch of smaller ones. Smith & Wesson's building the M&P, they make a compact version of that, and then Glock, they've got a bunch of different ones. But there again, if you buy the gun and you don't take it with you, I don't want to carry it tonight, and then that's the night you need it, then
it's not any good.
It might as well be a brick, It's not going to do you any good. You've got, but even in a combat situation, close in,
yes,
I would prefer an edge weapon myself. I would, because I can pull that knife out and I know what to do with it. I can put the hurt on them quick. And a knife, believe it or not, kills so fast, and it also, like you said, disables the nervous system to where they're out of the fight. That's it. And a big dog like a pit bull, it's real powerful and stuff. If you take a blade like I carry, which is a 9-inch combat weapon, and you can stick that thing from his stomach and he'll come out his spine. And one lunge with that and it's over. Game over. He's dead.
Right. One thing with the knives, and I totally agree that the knives tend to have a very ill effect, detriment to the nervous system. And I know when a knife enters that rib cage, that rib area, and it hits the organs, that's instant shock when it comes
super trauma immediately.
Super trauma immediately. So Again, there are some companies that have things that may not be technically considered a knife, but there's a very sharp, very precise poking type of devices that they have that are very light. They have various type of belt knives, and like I said, sportsman knives now that can be on the arm. It doesn't look like a knife at all. It's kind of concealed. So they come in different colors and everything. So some of the firearm, again, we had a gentleman out there that was asking. He called in and just wanted to know. I don't know how much he knows about firearms, but I'll just say that you hit it right on target. There's so many small, concealable, very light type of handheld revolvers and semi-automatics. One that's very popular is the hammerless version, where there's no hammer; it's built inside.
Like those Lady Smith 38s
exactly.
and stuff.
Yeah, those lightweight, airweight, or featherweight Smith & Wesson.
They're kind of expensive, but if you
they
got
are.
the means to, you can get it. And Charter Arms makes one that called the Defender. There was a girl I was teaching her. I was teaching her to shoot. She bought a little 38, I think, at that Tulsa Firearms, and she brought that thing down there to the gun range at 2A Shooting Center. She didn't really know how to shoot, and I was training her to shoot. And I could take that gun at 20 yards, that little snub-nosed pistol, and I could make them bullet holes touch at 20 yards with it. That's a shooting little sucker.
Yeah, so, and that's a good point. What yardage is typically going to be the encounter if you have to pull?
Yeah,
I would say
if
less.
A dog's showing his teeth and he's in there again, that's where we talk about you got to be able to read body language.
Yes.
And I've hunted predators all my life, so I know what they're going to do. If they start showing their teeth and that hair stands up on the back of their neck and they lay their ears down, it's coming. So you better be ready.
Yeah.
And so I'm not going to wait around. If I got a gun, he takes the first step. I'm going to smoke him. I'm going to put one right in him. And if I got the knife, of course you have to wait till he gets there. But you need to be ready when he makes the jump. You need to make sure you're in time to stick it in him right then.
Right.
And the fight will be over in seconds. This has happened before. I know guys that have had to get dogs off of them with a knife, and they just say it's over in just a second. Totally disables the nervous system. It's bloody. And it's going to be a mess, but you're going to be alive, and maybe your dog will be alive.
Well, that's
too.
what counts right there.
And if the dog, let's say the dog attacks your little dog. Let's say a lot of people have small dogs, and if it attacks your dog, you're not going to separate them. You get in the middle of that, you're going to get bit. The dog's going to bite you. I'm not going to worry about trying to get my dog loose. I'm going to jump on that dog and kill it with a knife. That's it. I'm going to take him out. I don't care what the people say or what the cops say. At that point, you're within the law. That's a lethal attack, and you can kill the aggressor.
Well, there's a threat, and
right.
It's right, exactly.
It doesn't matter if it's a human or an animal. Either one, the law is a straight line there. It says a lethal aggressor. That's it.
Well, I would say too, getting back just a little bit and on the firearms, the ladies Smith & Wesson hammerless, that featherweight or airweight version, as well as Ruger has one. You're going to spend somewhere, and it's maybe pricey for some of you. It's going to be anywhere from $350, $450, maybe somewhere maybe $500.
Yeah, depending on what model you get, you can get them fancy, clear up to $600.
Oh yeah, but and then so I would say at least at a minimum of maybe a 38 caliber at least, and then of course then you can get your plus P.
Yeah, 125 grain plus P 38s in that thing.
Right. It's gonna rattle your hand. You don't really want to target shoot with those too much because it'll shake your hand. But for an emergency load like that, that's a good load to have. So
the main thing. Well, like these bigger dogs that you encounter, I could go on for days about some of the dog encounters I've had hunting coyotes and stuff, but I was at my shop one day and my mother-in-law called me. And she said, I need you to come home right now. She goes, have you got your rifle in the truck? I said, yeah, I've always got it in there during coyote season. And so I said, what's the problem? She goes, there's a big pit bulldog over here. He's killed all my chickens in the yard out here, and he's staring me down. He won't let me come out of the house. He tried to get me when I opened the door. I said, all right, I'll be right there. So I jumped in the Jeep and took off. And when I got there, he was back over across the creek, and he was trying to kill our ducks. So I asked her, I said, is that the white one right there? Well, he's seen me, and he was just staring me down. So
right.
I just laid across the Jeep with that 40X Remington and put it right between his eyeballs. And, the owner got a little bit upset about it, but the sheriff's department told him, he said, well, he was over killing people's livestock. You should have had him on a leash. He broke the chain, but where he made the mistake is he's coming after humans,
Right. Well,
and that's where he paid the price.
Well, there's that, like you said, once they go into that animalistic mode and they're killing sheep and chickens, it's not far from that, from looking at a human, is what if it's a child, an unfortunate, a child that gets in the way.
Right. I mean, and we're talking about the channel here. We're talking about Dogman and Sasquatch and all these things in the woods, and I mean, you could just be out looking. I mean, let's just say you're out, you just going down a trail looking for tracks, and all of a sudden you meet one of these dogs or something, or you meet a mountain lion. You're not going to negotiate some kind of a treaty with that mountain lion. I mean,
no,
they don't negotiate with you. They're going to look at you as food. That's it. And like I said before, these predators nowadays, it seems like they're losing their fear of man. And the scientists are studying that, and it's just it's not just here, it's everywhere. Even the Australians are having trouble. They said that they've got feral dog problems now over there where they have the dingo over there in Australia, and they're having trouble now with these packs of feral dogs they're taking over.
Right.
And ranchers are all carrying rifles because they see so many of these dogs. So they've told the people in the cities that they're steadily moving that direction. So it's a big problem there.
Well, and the other aspect too, just to kind of keep on the same line here of being safe, and we've had some people, like I said, that wanted to know a little bit more in depth about this feral dog issue, is that they're not all reported. I can't give the specific statistic on how many reports to not being reported, but I'll say it is an issue. And more, there's millions of dogs that are unaccounted for. People just indiscriminately drop in the woods, and domesticated dogs can act like a wolf. One becomes the alpha male and is the pack leader, and there can be 6-7 different breeds of dogs. But another thing, kind of switching gears a little bit, is now you have hunted a lot of rattlesnakes, and guess what time of the season it's coming?
Oh yeah,
it's coming rattlesnake season, and we lived in Romano State Park, which is a really high gypsum area where there are a lot of gypsum rocks at. They had a lot of geologists would go out there every year. Well, this gypsum has domes. It forms these hollow domes, and those rattlesnakes would get up in there.
Exactly.
And they love make that den, and there would be dozens of them. And I know you've hunted some big rattlers before, and I'll try to show one of those pictures up on
the one I showed you. That was a buddy of mine, Stan and Rick. They hunt. That's what they do. They hunt snakes. That's their deal. And that one they caught there in that picture is a monster.
And that now that terrain, where was that caught at?
It was out in western Oklahoma.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing: rattlesnakes in the state of Oklahoma are all over the state.
Everywhere.
And when we lived out at Romano's, there was a little town not too far away, about 20 miles away, called Okeene, Oklahoma, and they had the rattlesnake hunt.
Yeah, that's a big spot there.
That's a big spot. And then, of course, we have Mangum, Oklahoma.
And then they have another one at Winoka.
And
that's out there where Stan and Rick hunt, out in that part of the world.
See, and that's where we lived out at Little Sahara.
Yeah, there's some monster snakes. Those they were catching. They have that big hunt out there. And Stan, he wins that thing quite a bit because he's an expert at catching these things. He's on snakes like I am coyotes and bobcats.
There's a
I
skill
call him
set
a snake doctor because he knows how to do it.
Yeah, it's like the snake whisperer.
Yeah, and these things are big around as your arm, and the head on it looked like a tennis ball. It was so big.
Yeah. Well, these people would go out to the park, and I caught a rattler out at the park crossing the road at night one time, and it was 58 inches in length, and the fangs on this thing were at least an inch, and it was monstrous. And so you got to be careful this time of the year. Things are getting warmed up, so that's another thing to be mindful of, people. When you go out there, please be aware of
you got to be looking everywhere.
You got to be looking everywhere. We've got some poisonous venomous snakes here in Oklahoma, not just western diamondback.
People don't realize it. They think they watch TV and they say, well, a snake will bite you. He won't bite you above the knee. A snake that size has a 4-foot strike radius, because that snake's probably at least 10 to 12 foot long. I mean, that's a monster snake, and it's big around as a 4-inch Schedule 40 pipe, And they'll coil up and lay in wait, and I mean, usually they won't attack you unless they're provoked. But if you scare him, you just walking by a mesquite bush and he's laying there, and you scare him, and he jumps out and gets you up in the thigh or in the back or
your hand.
It's going to be bad.
Well,
a snake like that can put so much venom in you, it's going to really take effect in a hurry.
Well, and provoking doesn't mean you're poking it with a stick.
No.
Provoking means you just accidentally stepped on it because
Yeah.
they hide. They're so they blend so well into the landscape of the rocks, the trees, the grasses. That, I mean, that's what their intent is. They're camouflage. And so whether it's western diamondback, eastern, but we have water moccasins, of course, that harbor typically near creeks or swamp areas or lakes areas, so you got to be careful there. But
I've always wondered how like a Sasquatch would have to deal with one of these big snakes.
I
like
wonder
this.
too. I wonder that. I've often wondered if they have a sense of knowing. I mean, because here they are barefoot.
Yeah, they'd almost have to know or have an idea about where they are.
Yeah, and stay away from those areas.
Yeah, because they would be they're bigger than us, but still, yet a snake like that could do some damage.
Oh, yeah.
Tissue damage at least.
At least.
And with an animal that gets hurt out there, Baron Kumbo talked about that. It's like Tim said. He said if an animal gets hurt out there, it can be a lethal thing for them. Because they'll once they get injured, they're not going to be able to provide for themselves very well. It can go south for them pretty quick. So they try to stay away from confrontation, and they want things to be on their terms, not getting bit by a snake or an attack. I wouldn't think a mountain lion would attack them. They're so big, or a grizzly bear or anything else, But
well, animals have a way of self-identifying. Hey, you're much bigger than I am. I'm not going to mess with you.
Now, a hog might be a different. It might be a different story. A big feral hog, it might be different. But there again, I know guys that's been chased by them, and they had to jump in a tree because the suckers was trying to lay him open. Finally killed it with a Thompson contender, but it was tearing the hell out of that place around that tree trying to get him.
Yeah, and don't fool yourself. Those hogs, as big as lumberous as they may be, they can get real fast, real quick. They can come right after you through there. So you got to be real careful. And they're being omnivores, they're plant eaters, but they also like to eat meat. And so now I'm not saying they're just going to go after you because you're meat, but again, if you're in an area that has piglets, or you're in a bedding area or a wallow down on a river bottom, which the South Canadian, North Canadian, and all those river bottom areas, there's lots and lots of hogs down there.
Well, too, you think about it. Okay, we know that the Sasquatch eats meat.
Right. Okay.
Well, these hogs is like it's like going down to Reese's for them. I mean, they hunt these hogs,
Right.
And there's been more than one person, Bear and Tim and some of them other guys have said they've seen them take those hogs and beat them against trees. The smaller ones that they catch, but the big feral boars. There's been, I've called them in down in Texas, and I got pictures of me sitting in the broomweed with them running around me, and they couldn't see me or smell me because I was camoed up and had a scent lock suit on. But I called them in, and Gerald was taking pictures of them running around me. 15 or 20, they were circling me like a wagon train.
Oh, really?
And they was getting a little bit close because they was coming right close to me, But
sure.
I couldn't get up and run because then they'd have probably charged me.
Right.
But yeah, they will come in after you, and there's always a big boar. They're kind of like a grizzly bear. They ain't too much scares them.
No.
And they're just like a bulldozer. Once they get up the momentum, they're gonna chase you till they either get you or run you up something where you can't. I've talked to them boys in Texas that tried to trap them, and several of them had to jump on top of the cages, to get away from them. And one guy was laid open pretty good by that. That was on Monster Quest on that Hogzilla deal. They were talking about them big hogs, and that one laid him open, and he had to have on how many stitches to get stitched back up.
They're dangerous animals. You just got to know, again, know the wildlife in the area, know how they respond, know how they're provoked, and know the body language of the animal.
That's the main thing. People that don't go out and in the wild and they might be watching birds or whatever, or just out for a hike or whatever, and they run into a mountain lion, or they run into a couple of coyotes, and the coyotes size them up and go, hey, man, we can make a meal out of this guy. I mean, coyotes are getting aggressive. And now we got another animal that we're dealing with that we haven't even talked about. It's a coy wolf. You know what that is?
Coy wolf. I've heard the coy wolf.
It's a cross between a coyote and a dog.
Okay.
Okay, well, they're bigger than a coyote, and they're starting to be more and more of them here in Oklahoma, and they're down in Texas and along the Mexican border and down in there. And these animals here are the size of 60, 70 pound range. So we're getting up into wolf territory now, this kind of thing. And a dog like that is going to be fighting like I was fighting that one in that dry wash. Only this thing was probably going to be, he's going to be fully alert, fully alive, and you're going to have your hands full. You better have a gun or not. You better have something, or you're not going to come out of it.
Well, and that tells me right there, really, and this was kind of our premise here, you don't want to go by yourself.
I wouldn't recommend it.
If all possible, go with a group, go with a buddy, and go with other people that you can depend on, rely on, that can help you. I mean, you never want to. A lot of bow hunters go by themselves. I know that.
I used to do the same thing.
And guess what? Of all the hunters, have the most problems and are missing the most.
Bow hunters.
Bow hunters. So, and I used to go a lot by myself, but I don't anymore.
Well, I used to hunt coyotes all over by myself, too, because it's hard to get people to go with me, and stuff. And first of all, they don't like being out there when it's that cold, because I go when it's below zero, and it's
right.
I mean, and I go all day long. I mean, I get there and I stay from daylight till dark because I'm actually hunting them. And I mean, I'm aggressively hunting them all day. And a lot of people don't like to do that. They want to go through the motions, but they're not really serious. And the only way you can get them, if you're doing control work for a ranch, is you got to stay after them. I mean, you got to know places where they're at, and I locate dens and stuff. And I get down in there with them. And a den site is a place where they're going to protect their home ground.
Sure.
And these coyotes, you can tell when a coyote's going to be aggressive because he'll lay his ears back, the guard hairs on his back stand up, and they'll put that tail between their legs. And they're kind of walking on their tippy toes. And when they start that business, you better be ready because it's coming. I mean, and I've had them come in and charge me like that, but we'd always get them with a shotgun or something before they got there. But it doesn't happen on every call. But, I mean, guys are seeing more and more, and it's just not me. It's guys that I know that hunt coyotes across the country.
Right.
And I've got this deal on my phone where I get these news alerts whenever something like that happens,
right.
That's coyote related or wolf related. And here lately, I've been getting a bunch of them. So there's a lot of things going on out there with these things.
Well, everybody just, again, we bring this up there. We've had a few people calling in and also commenting, quite a few actually, on the comment lines on some of the shows, but especially the last one. They just wanted to know a little bit more about this feral dog issue. How prevalent is it? What types of firearms could they use? They're not very familiar, and if so, what kind of ammo? And more importantly, get to know the firearm. Please go practice and don't carry it illegally. Get your CCW. Go out, and if you don't understand how to use it, get with someone to teach you how to use it, because you don't want to be a danger to yourself, let alone anyone else that you're out with. And so that's the thing. You have to be proficient at whatever you do. If you have a knife, don't use caution when you're using your knife. Be familiar with it and be safe about it, because the last thing you want to do is hurt yourself or harm someone else when you're out and about. Be proficient about these things when you want to have fun out in the woods. So, do you have anything else you want to add to this episode?
The knives and stuff. I've got a lot of combat knives because I collect them, and I've loaned several to people. Guys that needed a knife to go hunting, and that's kind of a weird deal. Hunters with no knife,
right?
And I tell them, hey, this ain't your average knife. This thing's like a scalpel. Be careful, and it never fails.
They cut themselves.
Yeah. My stepson did. He laid his finger clear to the bone. He said, "Well, man, that thing was sharp." I said, "Well, what good is it if it's dull? I told you it was sharp before
right.
I give it to you." But they just what I call a sharp knife and what somebody else calls a sharp knife is probably two different things. I mean, the ones I use are like a razor blade, and I mean, it's made to cut through organs and do the job. And a dull one is not going to do anything. It might poke a hole in you, but it's not. You got to get in there and do business lethal stuff to make the attack go away. Like we're talking about.
Right. I mean, and that's it. You don't want to be twirling the knife around in the house or anything like that. But at least get some basic understanding how to use the knife. And of course, we're talking fixed blade knives typically in most cases. These are knives that are already made in an elongated fashion. There's a handle, there's a hilt on it, and it's sheathed. It's in the leather sheath.
There's a ton of them out there,
and there's a lot of them out
that
there
are inexpensive, and you can.
That's right.
You can buy them at Academy and places. I mean, $10, $15. You can get one that'll serve your purpose really good. And if I was walking a dog in a neighborhood, I wouldn't leave the house without it.
We don't either. I always take something. And again, there's some good companies that have very interesting apparel for people that are walking, runners, people that are day hikers. And you name the sport or whatever when you're outside, and there's companies that's made some type of protective gear for people, knives and all those type of instruments. So,
yeah, I've seen a guy here just the other day. Well, this guy, he walks through the neighborhood. He's an older fella, and he walks religiously, and he carries a stick with him all the time. And I was thinking, man, unless he's Bruce Lee and knows how to use that thing like a bow staff, he's not going to do no good on no dog. Because, I mean, the ones I've seen, I watched these people beat this dog with a stick upside the head and the face, and that dog he was locked on. He was locked on, man. There was 8 people pulling on that dog. They had his back legs, his front legs, his tail, beating him in the face with sticks and stuff, and he was not going to let go of that guy. It's on the internet. You can watch it.
Wow.
And it was just unbelievable. Now, if that guy would have had a knife, stick it right under his throat and just pull, or right up under the front leg and pull, and he's going to drop. He's disabled right then. You just cut the nervous system off. The fight's over.
Now, what if that gentleman with that stick actually had a hidden knife in that stick?
Well, Gerber makes a deal right now that looks like a spear.
Yeah, I was going to say.
I seen it the other night at Academy, and I was thinking, that'd be a pretty good deal right there,
Yeah.
And, of course, you're walking around carrying a 6-foot spear around with a 9-inch blade on the end of it that might get the neighbor's attention. But, hey, as long as you're carrying it in the open and you ain't trying to conceal it, they really can't do anything to you.
No.
You're not threatening anybody.
That's
but
right.
Just tell them it's for dogs, that try to attack me. And, hey, the cops are going to drive on. They're not going to say anything because they know this stuff's a problem.
Right. What do you think, in your opinion, what do you think about these dog sprays that they have that are out now? People hearing this could say, oh my gosh, I can't believe you guys, your answer is just to shoot or stab. And I know that there are like these little spray things for like someone trying to attack you, a human being, that sprays in your face and everything. And they have some of these for dogs. What is your opinion about these sprays? Do they really work? Have you used them? I know what your answer is because it stops the fight instantly. And that's what you're looking for, to stop an engagement instantly rather than spray. And then I'll tell you my opinion. But go ahead and...
Well, okay, people are probably going to chastise me for this, but my theory is, my sister always tells me, murder, death, kill, murder, death, kill.
Yeah, right.
But
right.
I always look at the worst case scenario, and to me, if a dog's going to do that to you, what's he going to do to the next person that comes by? Or say the lady across the street's getting groceries out of her car, and she's got the kids, helping her, and the dog runs up and attacks the kids or attacks her. I mean, just as a scenario, that kind of thing has happened. I heard of it happening out in San Francisco, and it's just. The dogs evidently has got a taste for human, blood, because like you said, once they get it, that's just about it.
They're ruined.
But I don't have any remorse at that point. I'm an animal lover. I got my dogs, and I treat them really good. I treat my dogs better than most people do their kids. I mean, if I eat steak, they eat steak.
Right.
Dog food, they hardly ever eat dog food. But they get Arby's or whatever we got, So, but we treat them really good, and I know other guys that do the same thing. I mean, Jerry treats his dog just fantastic, and if these dogs aren't treated well and they've had a hard life, they've been abused and beat on, and nobody should do that to an animal. I mean, they're put here for us to take care of and love them and have fun with them, not to use them to beat on and make them mean. But when a dog gets to that point, it's almost, you can't bring them back. And you can send them to schools and do all kinds of stuff. But once they've got that taste in their mouth, it just seems like to me it's hard to break. So
the sprays,
I'm just going to take them out.
Yeah, well, the sprays doesn't kill them; it just deters them, and they may run off, but they're still living. And here you're saying that
they'll come back to the next.
It's going to come back to the next person. So that's kind of my sentiment as well. I mean, you're delaying their ability to possibly attack again.
And the thing of it is, it's not the dog's fault. It's the owner's fault. The people that dumped the dog or didn't take care of the animal. That animal was born, and all it wanted was someone to feed it and take care of it and have a family, maybe some kids to play with or something. But these people dump them and leave them. They got to move, and they don't want to take care of the dog or whatever. So they just throw it to the wind, and then the dog just turns into a hellion.
Well, it has to survive.
Yeah. And believe it or not, dogs can survive, and they have a will to survive.
Yes.
There'll be, in the last days on this planet, there'll be a lot of feral dog packs walking around. Believe me.
I believe it, too. I really do.
It's, the canines will try to take over, but, we kind of got off base and talking about what we normally talk about, but I'm just telling you, even if you're researching out there, like say you got 3 or 4 people and you're out there looking for footprints or whatever, from a Sasquatch, or you're trying to record something. If you run into one of these dogs, it's no longer a Sasquatch encounter. It's over. It's going to be a dog encounter, and you're going to have to fight it, or a mountain lion. I mean, mountain lions go for the throat, but if you got a big knife and that cat's on top of you, you can do the same damage to that cat as you can a dog. But you got to have the instrument to deliver the wound that you need to get him off of you, and it's a little bit of training. I mean, I wouldn't just go buy a knife and lay it on my counter.
No. And that's what I was saying. When you buy something like that, you need to
become
know
part of your body.
You need to learn how to use it. You need to learn how to clean it. You need to know everything about it. And so you're not a detriment to yourself. You're going to harm yourself and cut your fingers and everything. Every knife, I had a buddy that had a lot of knives, and he made knives like I do. And he said, it's inevitable. Every knife you have in the house, you'll end up cutting yourself with every knife that you have at some point in time. And that's just kind of the rule he would use. But the reason why we're talking about all this, which we really haven't said, is that I know this in this cryptid, Bigfoot, and Dogman community, I hear folks, and it's worrisome when I hear that people, and to each their own. First of all, I will say this from the get-go. It's what everybody wants to do, but we just want people safe. When you're out in the woods long enough and have grown up long enough in the woods, do you know of anybody, Dave? Because I don't. Everybody that I know that grew up as long as I have in the woods, hunting and fishing and arrowhead hunting, and just like yourself, shooting and hunting, do they ever go into the woods not carrying anything?
Well, I know a couple of people, but they're not really, their bricks aren't stacked clear to the top of the wall. But, I just, they all think I'm a madman, because I got all these knives and stuff. But, that's just what I do. Some people collect, Matchbox cars or Hot Wheels. I collect combat knives. And I got a bunch of them. And I've just always had them,
Right.
And guys I knew that brought stuff back from Vietnam, and I knew a lot of being on the bases and stuff, I was able to get special knives and everything. And I'm sitting there at night, I'll kind of mess around with them and hold them, and my sister, she'll tell me, she goes, well, while you're playing with your toy, why don't you go in there and sharpen my toys? She's always wanting me to sharpen stuff in the kitchen, So I have to do that. But anyway, I've taught her to use one, and every lady out there that jogs or anything, and we're just talking, there's some women that don't like guns. If you don't have a gun, you need to at least have a knife with you, or you can get to it in case of any kind of an attack.
I agree.
Walk into your car. if somebody grabs you from behind, you, like I said, you can pull that knife out, and you stick somebody with that or cut them bad with it, and then they're going to let you go, because they're going to have a big problem.
Yeah, that's the thing. You want to stop a fight
I'd a lot
really
rather
fast.
get shot than I would cut by a knife.
Oh, I know. Well, yeah, because it's super painful,
Yeah.
and it starts, that nervous system doesn't like that sharp, deep gourd.
I know police officers that have had encountered somebody running at them with a knife, and they've told me that when that guy, if he's 15 feet away and he starts running with a knife, they start shooting right then, because he can get to you and do damage real fast. So you need it. Yeah, it's a lethal threat. So they're not going to mess with them. They just take them out. At that point, the fight's on, and it's an aggressive attack. So you have to deal with it right there. A dog is the same way. I mean, wolves usually don't attack people, they say, but there has been a rising account of wolves being more aggressive towards humans. A lot of hunters have talked about it. Right. You had your buddy that saw the 4 in the woods.
Yeah, I mean, and they told us. What's really interesting is we talked to the game warden down there, and we said, "Is there any wolves down there?" He said, "No, not really." I mean, and I don't know what that meant. So he just kind of denied it, and I'm not saying he was intentionally lying or anything, but he may have not have saw one. But so he just said, "Well, not really. We haven't seen any in a long time." And then when we pulled off and talked to that gentleman in that camp by himself, he said, "Oh yeah," he goes, "Last year I saw 4 of them," and so they're out there in small pockets here and there, where there's, again, being a predator, where there's food, cover, water, and very little people traffic. They're going to harbor. They're going to stay right there. Why go anywhere else?
And see, here's another thing too. Getting back to the channel, what we're talking about. Let's say we're out looking for Sasquatch and Dogman. Anybody, okay, this is anybody that does research, and they don't know any more about these things than we know about them, okay? I mean, there's a few guys here in the United States that I would say are, you can't really say, they say they wouldn't call themselves an expert, but I would say they're the experts in the field because they grew up with these things and they know more about them than anybody.
I would agree.
Okay? And they've tried to warn people, and they've tried to tell them not to go into certain areas, not to make certain calls and do certain things because you don't even know what you're saying. True. Okay? And let's just take a scenario. 2 people by yourself, you don't have no firearms, and you accidentally call one of these things in or get it on top of you, and it's one of these aggressive kinds, like
we've heard about many times.
Like we've heard about that Baron Kumbo talked about. If they decide to twist your head around, that's it. They ain't gonna find your ass. I mean, you're just gone. And they may find you stuffed up under a log somewhere. That's happened to people. But if you don't, we're carrying guns out there, and we're carrying some stuff that'll take care of business. But we're not going out there. As soon as we see a Bigfoot, I'm going to level the crosshairs and put one in his left eye.
Not at all. And I think that's the perception, that because people that know, maybe that people that don't go out in the woods that often, or people are not familiar, or they don't feel comfortable with firearms, when they hear our episodes and other people in this community, their episodes, those that carry, they automatically assume a lot of things when it's so far from the truth of how we and many others that go out into the woods conduct themselves. Now, there's going to be exceptions. You're going to have folks that go out there and carry a firearm, and I'm a big Bigfoot hunter or whatever. No, that doesn't make you a Bigfoot hunter. And that's like, just because you drive faster in your car, that doesn't make you a race car driver. So, there's lots of folks that go out and have the same mindset. They're going out for protection, because when you're up against, you want to try to level the field of the equality field here. So if you know that you are in a mode of understanding, observing, documenting, and wanting to look at some footage, attain some footage of these things, and you've got a Squatch that's 10 foot tall, 4.5 feet wide, possibly weighing anywhere from 5 to 800 pounds, or you're with this, you're up against an elusive dogman creature that we know still very little of. You want to try to level the playing field and have something in your favor that you have on your side, and that's all we're trying to do. We don't go out provoking. We don't go out trying to intentionally, if we see the first one we shoot at, that's far, far from the truth, as well as many others that go out with firearms as well.
Well, I've heard these encounters of these guys say, well, they're throwing boulders at them, big old rocks the size of a freaking microwave. Now, if he was up there doing that and trying to hit me with them, I'd probably just...
That's different.
I'd probably just put the old 300 Winchester on about 7 power and just put it right in his left eyeball and game over. But that's only in a situation where he's trying to hurt you. We're not going to go out there and say, oh, there's one there, let's blast him. We're not going to do that.
Well, first of all, that's not how we were raised.
No, but we're not going to just shoot it because it's there. We're not trying to do that. But these dogmen are another situation. Anybody I've ever talked to, any of the tribal members, the elders and stuff say, hey, just kill it. It's pure evil. And they know a little bit about them, but I would say the dogman more people are afraid of it than they are the Bigfoot. And that's what I saw. So, I mean, I've hunted canines all my life. I've been out on the desert and chased these coyotes and wolves and stuff all around. I've lived out there with them. And the dogman don't scare me. It doesn't scare me in the least. I mean, I looked into his eyes. I know what's there. I just didn't have a big enough gun that day.
Yeah.
But if I see that dogman, that's a different story. Now, the Bigfoot, I don't have a desire to blast him. But the dogman is not there to do you any good.
Well, I don't remember, and you've listened to as many episodes as I have on other shows that are similar to ours, and I don't recall, I'm trying to think right now, and I've listened to some just last night. I don't recall not one of them being pleasant.
No.
That everybody says, oh, I'm so glad that I had this encounter with this dog canine creature. I don't recall that. And so I've never heard of a good event, encounter, or instance that someone came, even just witnessing it. I mean, again, I go back to the gentleman that had the encounter outside of Tulsa here, the gentleman in the healthcare, and I talk to him often now, and every once in a while I'll just say, now tell me again what you saw, because I'm trying to wrap my mind around it. I drew a picture of it, I think on this last episode, I think, and he said, that's it. He said, I asked him, I said, what's the size, do you think the size of this thing was if it didn't stand up? He said, Lance, I would say it's at least 500, 550 pounds. And he said the enormity, the size of this thing, the muzzle, across the muzzle was 4 to 5 inches. That's huge. And so I don't think you're going to be able to reason with this thing at all if you get in contact with this thing. And I'm trying to say, what's the purpose of this being out in the woods like this? I don't know what its purpose is.
Well, I know the one I seen, it was massive, and if I'd had the right gun, if I'd had the 300, I could have took it out. There wouldn't have been a doubt in my mind I could have killed it. But the average person is not carrying a rifle like that most of the time.
No.
And you need to have several guys there that know how to shoot. And I know how to call these things in now. I know how to get them there. And I'm not going to ever release that sound. I won't ever let nobody know what it is.
Right.
But because they'll end up getting themselves ate up. But there's people out there that probably think this is a joke or a fairy tale. And I would suggest not going out there and trying to hunt that if you don't have any canine experience at all, because you're going to get yourself in a world of hurt if you do.
Well, and Layne and I were having this conversation as well as Bill. And here's the problem. If people try to do something like that, I advise highly do not, because here's the thing. You're assuming, now you had one come up. What if the scenario came up where you had 3?
Well, I was looking for more than him.
Yeah, I know you were. But and the scenario could come up that way. What if you had 1 approaching from the west and 2 coming from the north and another one coming from the south?
And Vic, what I understand from Vic, he's kind of the resident expert on these things because he's had the channel longer than anybody.
Right.
He says that there's times that there's more than 1.
Well, that's what they always say.
So
you
if
see
there
one,
is, we're going to be busy.
Yeah, and that's the thing, and that's why we're going as a group, and we're going trained, and we're keeping. I mean, we are on high alert, and it's all business when we go out, and so that's the thing that's why we have the group that we have, and everybody's looking 360 because we don't want to assume there's one.
Yeah, and you're not going to go out there and just park your car and get out and go bottle-assing down through the woods and see these things. I mean, when you do that, you get in there and you're walking down the trail and you're trying to find this and that, where they've been or what you think it is. It's even if it's a Sasquatch. You're playing their game, okay? You're on their terms. That's where they live. I don't do that. I want them to play my game. And I take it as a military operation. I set the battle plan up, and I get them to come to me the way I want them to come to me. That way it's a safe encounter, and if it goes south, I've got time to do something about it.
Well, that's exactly right. You have contingency plans.
Right.
And that's what's
and
about.
These guys go in there and say, oh, well, I was right among them, and I was all this and all that. And I said, yeah, until one day they get pissed off and don't want you there no more. And I said, one of them comes up behind you and twists your head around like it's one of them little toy dolls in the store. And I said, that's going to be it. They're going to find your ass laying out there with ants crawling out of you. You know, the piss ants are going to make a hotel out of you. So, I mean, it's just, that's the way I look at it.
It is. I mean, here's the thing, too. If people
don't think that there's been not people killed by these, they're whacked. I'm telling you, there's people that are missing in these parks, and you're not going to tell me that UFOs flew down there and sucked them up a hose in there and put them all up in the UFO. They find their clothes, they find places where they thought they were killed, but they just don't find the people.
Well, because it's not going to be reported.
Right.
And if it's not reported, how come, I've got some family members that say, well, how come I didn't read anything about it? Or how come it's not in the news? Because people control the news. People control the reports.
They don't want this out there.
That's right, because that would infringe upon the ultimate almighty dollar of people not visiting parks, not visiting recreation areas and wildlife refuges and all those other things there. So you have to think this happens. This really happens.
Well, these guys want to go out there and they want to be the big scientists, and they got all these armchair people and stuff. And there's some guys out there probably that are trying to do good, but they're not realizing what's going on, because I'm going to say this, and I might make some people mad, but Bear and Kumbo, I started listening to them guys back when this thing wasn't very big, after I'd had my encounter. And I was shocked to hear them say some of the things they said. But these guys know these things, and then I met Mike down there from the Siege of Honubby, and he told me things.
Uh-huh.
And these guys aren't liars. I mean, they're telling the truth. And these things have been in the woods with us for a long time. But if these people think they can go in there and they're gonna sit down and drink tea and play a flute and give it a teddy bear and some candy, that's bull crap. It ain't gonna happen. I mean, they're only gonna tolerate people for so long, and if you catch them on the wrong day, it's gonna be over.
Well, you're leaving it to the Squatch to have the upper hand, if you will. They're going to be the one in control.
They try to say they're people, and they cloak and all this. No, I didn't. I've been out there a bunch of times. I didn't see Captain Kirk and Spock walking around any place. They ain't getting beamed up and down. That's a bunch of bull. But this is just an animal that has been slightly discovered, and we just don't have enough about it yet to where they're going to recognize it. And right. I think what it's going to take is to put one on the slab. It's like Lansdale and Humphrey said, you're going to have to get one on the slab to prove it's real, and then it'll be totally off the wall by then. It'll be crazy.
And not too long ago, I don't know if you heard the same episode, but I think Wes and Woody were talking about this too, and they had two other gentlemen on there. I can't recall their names right now, but they were talking about...
That was Tom from the Indian Reservation up
maybe,
there.
Yeah. And they were talking about these scenarios of when that happens, and it was really good conversation, I thought, with their show during that segment, because they brought up very realistic scenarios. Each one of them had a very good point, and Wes and Woody, I think, were a little in opposition to each other, but again, they brought up valid points, and that is, if you think that if you're going to get one of these and you're just going to go up and put it in the back of your truck and go up to Walmart and hang it up for everybody to see, it's not going to happen. I can tell you right now, it's not going to happen, nor should you do that. I can't remember that episode, or I'd recommend that episode. I can't recall now.
It's been back about 4 shows ago. I think.
Maybe. And that's a good one to go watch on Wes and Woody. They're discussing that one. But I thought they brought up some really valid points about that.
See, Wes's opinion was, and I still think he thinks like this. He's kind of leaning the other way, and I know he's kind of back and forth, but he said, kill them all, let God sort them out. He had the special forces attitude,
Right.
The thing scared the crap out of him, and he's no little guy. He's a pretty good sized guy. He used to be a bouncer and stuff, so he was pretty scared by it, and I had the same attitude he did at one time. I thought, man, we just need to go into the woods. I wanted to put together a fire team of military guys that I knew that were really good shooters and snipers that could sneak around like the guys I run around with and slip in there and just smoke them all and not say nothing to nobody. Just leave them lay, just like we do coyotes. Because I still, in some aspect, kind of think that, because I don't think they're here to do anybody any good. And if you really want to know my opinion, I go back to the Bible, like I said.
Right.
And David Mick said the same thing. He thinks they're a part of the Nephilim. And in the last days on the earth, when Satan takes control, these things are going to be activated to full tilt. They're going to take man out.
They'll increase in number. They'll increase in number.
That's right.
So, yeah, I mean, I agree the same
There's
premise.
a lot more guys are believing that. And I've heard military guys say the same thing. They said that the Sasquatch and the Dogman was an abomination. That's what they called it.
Well, yeah, the people that are what I would call the academics, the people that I have a buddy that in town, he's an entrepreneur, he's a business owner, owns a few businesses, very successful, very articulate gentleman. And but he's a theological guy, very in-depth in studying the Bible and history. And he reiterated, I was trying to get him on the show with us sometime, but he said the same thing. He said, Lance, it's all written down. In the last days, the Nephilim will increase. And the sense, and he goes, we talked about Sasquatch, and he's not into the phenomenon like we are, but he said, oh yeah, it's known. That's what these are. They're part. It's all biblical in nature. And so, and he goes, I told him about the Dogman. He said, it doesn't surprise me. And he said there would probably be more things out there that no one would ever know.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a guy, I forget his name. He's a preacher. He has a show called the Prophecy Club. You can look him up on I think he's in Oklahoma City.
I think you're right.
And he talked about this. He even talked about vampires, but I'm not into vampires. But,
no.
But anyway, the Sasquatch and the Dogman, if I could put my finger on it and I knew for 100% that it was the Nephilim, I'd be loading bullets. My press would be smoking. I'd be out there hunting these things every day and killing them. I'd kill everyone I could see, because they're not here to do nobody no good. I mean, in the last days, they're going to kill people. They're 5 times our size. And it's like Jim King said, if they knew how we really are against them now, there wouldn't be any of us left. They'd wipe us out, you know.
Yeah.
Until they come up against the hardware, and then it wouldn't be very good for them.
Right.
But they're in this realm, and I've heard so many preachers talk on this, and it's just unreal. But they say that when they're in this dimension, it eats regular food, it has blood through its veins, and you can kill it, just like you can kill any other animal. And once you kill it, it's dead. So, if they are of Satan's world, then we know what side we're on. We're fighting on the right side.
That's right. That's right. And again, we just want everybody just, thinking for themselves out there. Think of the possibilities, be safe, and just go with the plan. That's it. Go with the plan. Be smart about your activities. You don't have to plan. I mean, you don't have to be worried on every instance when you go out and to enjoy the woods of Oklahoma or campgrounds or recreational areas, but just have a game plan is all we're saying.
Do a little research on your area and kind of be familiar with your surroundings,
Yeah, I mean, you don't have to study for months and months. I mean, I heard recently that when we go out deer hunting, we'll take a topography map and we'll look at the terrain and everything, but I don't study it months ahead of time. I just get familiar with the terrain and kind of what's in the woods. But I would just say be familiar with the area. If you can talk to a game ranger or some of the animals they've seen, again, just be mindful. Not everything may be talked about, but still getting to know the game rangers, possibly the area if they stop, or the state park ranger or recreational area, and just having a game plan, being smart. It's kind of no different than being in the city. Being mindful of your surroundings when you go into a Walmart. Where do you park? Why do you park here? When you park, I tell my family, look around you before you get out. Is there anybody staring at you? Is there anybody harboring around the car? It's no different. It's just a different area. You're in the city versus the woods. That's it.
Yeah, I mean, there's threats everywhere. Well, and this is the world we live in today. I mean, but when you step off the concrete and you go out there and start down a trail, you're in their house then, and you're playing their game.
Yes.
Okay, so you can go out there and beat on trees and do all you want to do, and I agree with Wes. These guys doing that with 15 people along is not going to see anything. But they're probably miles from there. But you take 2 people, walk them down through the woods, and they don't think you have any guns. They may think, hey, we can do this guy in. I mean, Mike Woolley's account. He was hunting deer, and he had a rifle. And he still had to run for his life because these two were trying to kill him. And if he'd went ahead and just dropped that one, shot it right there when he started showing his teeth at him, the other one could have come out of the woods. He might have got him too and could have got away. He still got away, but if them suckers did that to me, I'm gonna tell you what, I'd be on the phone calling my buddies up, and we went back in there. It'd be a different story because we'd cut them woods down.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we'd take them out because these boys I got can shoot.
Yeah, Mike Woolley, he barely made it out.
Yeah, you got to have the right weapons, and you got to have guys that know tactics, and you need to, know how to cover each other. But when you put the bullet on the target, it needs to go where you want it to go.
Exactly.
You can't be missing and shooting all over the damn hill.
Well, that's just it. When you carry a firearm, it's assumed, highly assumed, you know where to put it and how to put it, and that you're not out just to graze it. It's going down.
I mean, I don't shoot anything to wound it. I mean, if I'm going to shoot something, I want it to die. I mean, it's the lethal way and the humane way to do it.
Sure.
But like you're just going back to what we're talking about. I mean, I've killed a lot of big white-tailed deer, and I've killed a lot of big coyotes and bobcats. And everybody goes, "Well, Dave, you always got to kill the biggest stuff. How come you always get all these big animals?" I said, I see a lot of the little ones, but I said the big ones are harder to kill. I said they think, so you got to outwit them. You gotta. It's a game kind of. Your wit against theirs, and it's more in their favor because you're hunting in their living room, and when you pit your skills against that, but you don't get it by slamming the car door. You can't smoke, and you can't go in there, eating Slim Jims and all kinds of stuff like that. I mean, you need to go in there descented. The animal doesn't even need to know you're in the vicinity.
No.
I mean, you need to descent yourself and don't give anything away. You need to know your wind currents. You need to know, the ins and outs of the trails. Mostly, I don't like going into the woods, and I'll tell you why. Because in there, that's an ambush point. Okay, you can't see very far. We can't.
No.
They know the place. They know every bottleneck. They know every cross section. They know every rock where there's an ambush point or a choke point. If you draw them out in the edge of a field where they're less comfortable, but they come to the wood line, and then you can see them, then the game's in your department.
Right. Yeah, I mean, that's exactly how you want it, not the other way around.
Right.
Because you're going to have some problems real fast.
And the only way you're ever going to get good pictures of one of these, it's going to have to be done like that. And then right back to what I said, I think there's a handful of guys here in the United States, I'm not going to sit here and name them all, but most people know who they are, that are capable of getting good pictures of these.
Yeah.
And some of them already have them, but they won't let them out because they don't want to listen to the crap. Oh, it's a guy in a suit, or you staged that, or you did this, or you did that. It's a computer-generated image, or whatever.
CGI.
The only thing they're going to believe is when you come in there and throw the sucker down on the table and he's bleeding. That's when they're going to believe it. But the guys have pictures of them, clear pictures, that they would release if people wouldn't be such asses and give them a little bit of credit.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's that could be a whole nother show. Is just people get very defensive and upset, and not just in this community, but just researchers in general that typically don't look at these cryptids. It would have to. I would say you have more people in general that are the glass half empty type, rather than the possibility of what if there is that possibility that exists. So I know this in this genre of cryptology, of course, with Sasquatch and Dogman and other types of unknowns that are out there in the woods, I'm going to say that you're right. There's probably just a handful of people that are actually what I would call really in term an expert, just because of the hours and hours and how they are very, very good observers of these.
It's been a lifetime for them.
A lifetime. You just can't do it in a few months or a year. It takes a lifetime on knowing how behaviors are and knowing a lot more in depth about the woods. And but I would agree, there's probably just a handful that's been able to are going to be able to get very close to these things.
Well, there's
and I'm
people
referring
out there,
specifically to probably the Dogman creature.
Yeah, there's people out there that, they show some image behind a bunch of trees, and it's a dark image, and oh man, that's a Bigfoot. or that stump right there, that's a Bigfoot. Everything, every little tree that snapped or twisted around or any little limb that's broke, oh, that's a Sasquatch. They did, we're on the trail of Bigfoot. That's Bigfoot, man. That's bull, because I can take you to places right now. I know where the woods is all tore up with different stuff, and there ain't a Sasquatch in there one. I mean, come on, man. We've been doing this for how long? We've been hunting ever since we were little kids.
Well, there's definitely a I would say there's definitely an art and an ability to track animals. That's why we have people trained to do this in the military, track and scout, just like you. Right. And then people that grew up doing it, like us, non-military civilian, and there's an art to anything that you do very, very well, and because you've been doing it for a long time. Now, I'm not saying what I said earlier, that people haven't gotten close to these things. You have to be an expert to get close. I'm sure people, if you put yourself out or you're feeding these things, I'm not saying they're going to come up close, or if you're in a hotbed area, they won't come up close. I'm just saying that it's probably going to take an expert to get definitely a photo or a pic of a dogman creature, because I believe that there is extremely on the high level of intellect as far as cryptids out there, predators, and the other.
The method we're getting ready to use is probably the best method to do it.
I would agree.
There's probably, there's a few other guys beside me that can do this, but I know all of them. And I mean, they're good at what they do. But what I'm going back to is, I mean, somebody says, oh, well, the tree breaks and all that kind of stuff. And I've been in the woods. I've seen more of that stuff than the law allows. And I never heard no birds whistling or any of this kind of stuff, any of the sounds that they have on there. There's not a Bigfoot behind every tree, And they want to say every limb they see is done by Sasquatch. And I mean, even Coonbone Bear said they went through the same thing. All kinds of stuff. They've even seen people trying to hoax it,
right.
Trying to set it up for other people. But you need to know what you're doing. And I mean, you're not going to get these things to come out and play your game unless you've got a plan to do it. And it's not going to be willy-nilly. You're going to have to sit down and think about this before you do. I mean, I know everybody wants that, what do you call it, the money shot.
The money shot.
Yeah, they want to get that picture. Well, I've got a lot of pictures of stuff that people said I couldn't get pictures of. I snuck up and took photographs of them coyotes in their bed while they was laying there, and they never knew I was there. But that Indian buddy of mine, Lloyd Napier, told me, he said, boy, when you can sneak up on a coyote in his bed and take a picture of him, you can sneak up on anything. Because a coyote can smell better than a white-tailed deer, and he can hear better than a white-tailed deer. So think about that for a minute.
Sure. Well, that's good. That's really good. If you can do that, you've made it. Well, we've talked about a lot. Do you have any final thoughts or anything like that you'd like to add to this episode, Dave?
We just kind of went around the spectrum, jumping back and forth. But the main thing I would say, being summertime and stuff, more people's going to be out. They're going to have the family pets along, even the little kids and stuff. I just wouldn't, with the dogs and stuff that's out running around and things that are going on nowadays, I just would not be unarmed. You need something. If a knife or a gun, but if one of these dogs, just go on YouTube and pull up feral dog attacks and see what's on there, and it'll change your mind. Because that, we were talking about this show a week ago, and bam.
Here we go.
The mountain lion gets killed, and it was working that ranch. It didn't leave on no 150-mile range.
No.
It stayed on the ranch and was killing sheep right there. That was the third or fourth one it took.
Right. Then
the woman gets killed by a dog in Oklahoma City, 2 dogs. And, it's just like we looked into a crystal ball, and there it was,
Right. And that's why, we talked to each other through the week. I said, you're not going to believe this, when I told you about the lady. And so, yeah, and the reason why we talk about this is because we've encountered it. We know it's out there, and we just want everybody to be safe. So we care about you guys out there. We want everybody to have fun when you go out. And but be mindful of your surroundings. That's it. We've said it over and over and over again. And the reason why we say it over and over, because we want you safe. We want you to return back home to your families and yet having a good time out there. So if you or anyone have experienced anything unusual and you'd like to share with us, because many of you have or know somebody, and we're finding out that you, by just telling someone, you don't have to be on the show, but just by telling someone, I've already had a few people call, and it's just a release, Dave. They feel better. You can call our toll-free number, 1-866 866-306-8085. Again, that's 866-306-8085. Be safe, be alert. Take care, everyone.